Namaskar. Cyclone Tauktae is our main story today. And the government has put in place several mitigation measures to deal with the impact of this severe cyclonic storm. We'll be talking to the head of the India Meteorological Department as well as the head of the National Disaster Response Force. And we'll also other stories, and the number of COVID infections are on the decline, and the number of recoveries, they are increasing. The numbers are increasing. So that's good news. So we'll give you all this news on News Night. But let's begin with the headlines. Extremely severe cyclonic storm Tauktae from Arabian Sea hits Gujarat coast. Strong winds, heavy rains in many parts of the state, heavy rains in many parts of Maharashtra, including Mumbai. Reports of water logging. Prime Minister speaks to Chief Ministers of Gujarat, Goa and the LG of Daman-Diu. Takes stock of preparations and relief operations. NDRF, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard engaged in relief and rescue operations in Tauktae affected states. 2 lakh people have been evacuated to safer places in Gujarat. Rapid response teams deployed in 17 coastal districts. Regional and divisional control rooms of the railways also monitoring developments. Prime Minister Narendra Modi talks to a group of doctors from across the country on the COVID situation and appreciates the contribution of doctors in the fight against the second wave of this pandemic. The Prime Minister will talk to state and district officials tomorrow. The Union Health Minister chairs the GOM on COVID. New infections fall below 3 lakh for the first time in 26 days. DRDO anti-COVID drug 2-deoxy-D glucose for corona-infected patients has been launched. It marks another Atmanirbhar success in the war against corona. And also the Defense Minister says that this drug will play a major role in reducing COVID cases. Scientists have applauded, bringing new ray of hope is what they say. Continued efforts being made for availability of more oxygen and medicine across the country. Railways have supplied oxygen, and that's reached 10,000 metric tons from around 600 tankers across the country so far. The first oxygen express reaches Punjab. IAF brings in oxygen from abroad. Remdesivir production capacity has increased to 119 lakh vials per month. Restrictions and curfew continue in states. UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath visits many districts of western Uttar Pradesh to assess the COVID situation, drop in positivity rate and new infections in UP and Delhi. In Andhra Pradesh, corona curfew extended to the end of this month. Mamata Banerjee government in West Bengal faces CBI scanner. The CBI arrests 4 people, including 2 ministers, Firhad Hakim and Subrata Mukherjee, and the MLA Madan Mitra in the Narda scam case. The governor expresses concern over the situation and asks Mamata Banerjee to respect the constitution and the law. The conflict in Israel and Palestine continues. The U.S. begins peace initiatives amid rising tension. The U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken says diplomatic efforts are being made to reduce the tension. Germany appeals for peace. India emphasizes on the need to reduce tension immediately. Our top story, Cyclone Tauktae, which has now intensified into an extremely severe cyclonic storm, has hit the Gujarat coast a short while ago. The outer cloud band is over Saurashtra, and landfall process has started, and it will complete in the next few hours. The cyclonic storm is expected to cross the Gujarat coast later tonight. The IMD issued a red alert, in fact, for the coasts of Gujarat as well as Diu. Let's look at this report.
Cyclone Tauktae intensified into an extremely severe cyclonic storm on Monday. The outer cloud band is over Saurashtra, and landfall process has started and will complete in the next few hours. Gujarat coast has been receiving heavy rainfall and winds in excess of 155 to 165 kilometers per hour, gusting to 185 kilometers per hour. The IMD issued a red alert for the coasts of Gujarat and Diu. Post-landfall outlook for Gujarat and Rajasthan was also issued. For Maharashtra, Raigad district was issued red alert, while Mumbai, Thane and Palghar districts were given an orange alert. Rainfall continued over coastal areas of Gujarat and Diu, and it is likely to increase overnight. As a precaution, Gujarat administration has evacuated more than 2 lakh people from 17 coastal districts and is keeping a close vigil on the situation. Earlier, Prime Minister Narendra Modi called Chief Ministers of Gujarat, Goa, Maharashtra and Lieutenant Governor of Daman and Diu to discuss preparation and response to Cyclone Tauktae. He assured them for all possible help and assistance from the central government. The system is under continuous surveillance. Rescue and relief teams of the NDRF, Army, Navy, Coast Guard, along with ships, aircraft, railways and various state agencies have been deployed to minimize the damage. 65 teams of NDRF have been deployed while 14 are on standby.
लगातार हम लोग इवैक्यूएशन और अवेयरनेस जनरेशन का काम कर रहे हैं। मूल बात यह है कि जो मेन इम्पैक्ट स्टेट है वो गुजरात ही रहेगा और गुजरात में ही मैक्सिमम इम्पैक्ट होने की संभावना है। इसीलिए 50 से ज्यादा टीमें 100 से ज्यादा टीमें पूरे 5 या 6 राज्यों में लगाई गई थी। उसका लगभग आधा हिस्सा जो है गुजरात में इसलिए लगा गया है क्योंकि इम्पैक्ट स्टेट वही है।
Continuing with the preparation for Cyclone Tauktae, the Indian Air Force on Sunday had deployed 2 C-130J and 1 AN-32 aircraft for transportation of 167 personnel and 16.5 tons of load of NDRF from Kolkata to Ahmedabad. A C-130J and 2 AN-32 aircraft carried 121 NDRF personnel and 11.6 tons of load from Vijayawada to Ahmedabad for the same purpose. Also, 2 C-130J aircraft transported 110 personnel and 15 tons of cargo of NDRF from Pune to Ahmedabad. Earlier, rough seas resulted in flooding of the Indian flagged tug vessel Coromandel Supporter 11's machinery compartments. The vessel was adrift in the Arabian Sea, northwest of Mangalore in Karnataka. Rough seas had rendered the vessel without propulsion and power supply and the crew without any support. 4 personnel were then rescued by a helicopter and were transferred to a nearby Coast Guard vessel. It was because of the preemptive efforts of the Indian Coast Guard that damages were minimal from the adjoining seas of Kerala, Karnataka and Goa.
We resorted to virtual methods of alerting the state governments, getting regular Met reports, alerting the fisheries department, alerting the ports, utilizing our maritime rescue coordination centers. We have got radar operating centers for monitoring, and we started deploying our ships and aircraft for warning of those fishermen and merchantmen who are out at sea.
The cyclonic storm led to very strong winds and heavy rainfall in the entire western coast of the nation. Cyclone Tauktae's wind speed recorded at 2 p.m. at Kolaba in Mumbai was 112 kilometers per hour. In view of the strong winds, the Bandra-Worli Sea Link was closed for traffic. Suburban train services on the Central Railway's harbour line were also suspended. Maharashtra Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray took review of the situation. A total of 12,420 people from Ratnagiri, Sindhudurg and Raigad districts have been evacuated to safer places. As a result of the cyclone alert, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj International Airport, Mumbai was shut until 6 p.m. on Monday. Further south, Goa Chief Minister Dr. Pramod Sawant informed that COVID hospitals and COVID care centres were not affected due to the power outage in the coastal state. However, he said that it would take 2 days or so to restore power lines. Tauktae has already left a trail of destruction in its wake in the coastal belt of western India. 5 people lost their lives in Maharashtra's Konkan region in separate incidents related to the cyclone on Monday. On Sunday, Tauktae wreaked havoc in coastal areas of Kerala, Karnataka and Goa following heavy to extremely heavy rainfall. 6 people lost their lives in Karnataka while 2 died in Kerala. Tauktae means gecko, a highly vocal lizard in the Burmese language. This one unfortunately cannot be tamed, but with meticulous planning and precise and perfect execution of the relief ops, the effect will be minimized and relief provided to all the affected in real time. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, our correspondent Meghna Dev visited the State Emergency Operations Centre, Gandhinagar, Gujarat, and talked to the Additional Chief Secretary Pankaj Kumar about the preparations for the impact of landfall.
How are you guys preparing for it before the cyclone strikes and after that as well?
In fact, 4 days ago, when we got the first direction from the IMD, first forecast, we started preparing from that time only. And therefore, now we stand totally prepared to mitigate the impact of the cyclone. Government of India and the Union Home Ministry has been supported us completely. We have got 44 teams of NDRF, and we have our own state disaster response force. So 10 companies we have deployed, and they have been deployed all along the coast and in some hinterland areas also. But there is a massive deployment along the Saurashtra coast because this is most vulnerable. And then this, you can see this Gulf of Cambay, where the surge is going to be the highest. It can go as high as 3 to 4 meters. So we are taking care of the coast on this side also. So with this sort of deployment, plus we have our own police deployment, home guard and fire brigade. So they will be actively engaged in the rescue and relief operations. And they have also assisted us in the shifting process.
Pankaj Kumar, Additional Chief Secretary of Gujarat, speak on the preparation from the administration and the preparations on the ground to combat Cyclone Tauktae. With camera person Lakshman Rajput, this is Meghna Dev from DD News, Gandhinagar.
So let's take a look at how Gujarat is prepared for the Tauktae landfall. Let's take a look. Firstly, nearly 2 lakh people have been shifted to safer shelter homes. So nearly 2 lakh people have been shifted. 19,811 boats have been called back from the sea. We saw the Coast Guard also, we saw some rescue operations there. Coast Guard bringing boats that were on the sea back. Also 11,195 salt pan workers. They've been shifted to safer places. So a lot of activity is happening on the sea coast. Obviously, 44 NDRF and 9 SDRF teams engaged with cyclone management activities. And moving inner towards the land, we can see that weaker hut structures have been removed. So that is obvious, and those who are staying there have already been evacuated. Quick response teams, they have been deployed in 17 coastal districts. 175 ICU on wheels are on alert. Important, just in case that is required. ICU on wheels, on red alert, on alert. A buffer stock of oxygen for 2 days have been kept for COVID patients at COVID hospitals. So in case the supply is stuck. So that's also important because COVID patients should not be suffering at a time like this. So then let's see what the Army has done. Army preparations for Tauktae. We know that 11 diving teams of the Indian Navy are on standby. 12 flood rescue teams, medical teams for immediate deployment. Repair and rescue teams for structural repairs immediately after the cyclone. There are 3 naval ships, Talwar, Tarkash and Tabar. They are ready with relief material. There's also naval surveillance that's going on. Maritime reconnaissance aircraft are warning fishermen of the cyclone and also bringing leading them back towards the coast. That happened before the cyclone made landfall. Indian Air Force aircraft to carry NDRF personnel and equipment to Ahmedabad. That has already happened. 2 columns of the Army sent from Jamnagar to Diu along with engineering task force. So this is important for reconstruction and to assess the damage and bring things back as quickly as possible. The Army constantly in touch with the civil administration because this is a joint operation. The Army will be supporting the civil administration, and the Defence Minister has instructed the tri-services to provide all possible assistance to the civil administration. Let's look at what the railways have been doing. Now, the railways has also taken several measures in the face of Tauktae. Zonal and divisional controls, they are monitoring the situation regularly. Divisions and zones, they are in constant touch with the state governments in that area along the coast to monitor and plan for any contingency, because things can be moved by the railways. Also an emergency response of the railways, like accident relief trains, medical relief vans, tower wagons. They have all been put on high alert and readiness. Special intensive patrolling of vulnerable sections is being done. The monsoon season is also, upon us, so that will it has to be done, keeping in mind the rains that are coming in the future. Now, temporary cancellation or pre-termination of a certain long-distance and short-distance passenger trains has happened. A disaster management cell too has been opened from 1600 hours. This has happened from the 14th of this month. And all vulnerable areas and important bridges, they are being constantly monitored by the engineering wings of the railways. Relief material has also been kept at convenient locations. This is for quick response. So let's talk to our correspondent Meghna. Well, in fact, we're going to be talking to Meghna in a little while from now. Meghna, who has going to be giving us, but we don't have Meghna on the line, so we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we'll put all this into context with our few guests. Stay with us.
महात्मा के मंत्र। स्वच्छता में ईश्वर का वास होता है।
नमस्ते लैंड
मरहबन इलल हिंद
सलाम इंडिया नमस्ते इंडिया
नमस्कार भारत
नहनु हुनूर
इंडिया
माँ हिंदी हस्ती
हिंदियानी
सलाम हिंदुस्तान
वी आर इंडिया
कोरोना से बचाव के उपाय। आपस में कम से कम 1 मीटर की दूरी रखें। हाथों को बार बार साबुन और पानी से धोएं। 60% अल्कोहल आधारित सैनिटाइजर का प्रयोग करें। मास्क से चेहरे को ढक कर रखें। छींकते या खांसते समय नाक और मुंह को रुमाल या टिश्यू से ढकें। प्रयोग किए गए टिश्यू को तुरंत कूड़ेदान में डालें। सामाजिक आयोजनों और भीड़-भाड़ वाली जगहों से दूर रहें।
With Meghna. Meghna is right in the middle there of the storm. Meghna, can you hear me? Meghna, yeah, okay. So it has made landfall now.
Yes,
and it is moving slowly. It's moving slowly, and over the next few hours, it's going to, make complete landfall. Tell us what the exact situation is right now.
Yeah, Mark, currently I'm here at the State Emergency Operations Center in Gandhinagar, from where the entire the state of Gujarat is being controlled, and all the SOS calls which are going to come tonight are going to come at this place. There's a war room which is there, which has been built inside, so that all the calls, the SOS calls from all the districts can come here. And just before a few minutes, Chief Minister Vijay Rupani had addressed a press conference and told that the landfall has happened between Diu and Una, and there are going to be several affected districts, including Gir Somnath, including Porbandar, including Dwarka, and all, some places around the coastline. The districts around the coastline are going to be affected. The administration is on alert, and there are rapid response teams which are there. So definitely once, this process of the landfall is going to continue expected to continue till 1 a.m. So after that, the rapid response teams will be there, will be keeping an eye on the situation. But definitely in the morning, anywhere, wherever required, because till now 2 lakh people have been relocated to different places and safer places. But if required, in the morning as well, there is going to be a lot of relocation for different people who are stranded, or maybe people who would need help or rescue. And also very important that in some places electricity has also been snapped as a preventive measure. So all the measures have been taken from the past 4 days. This State Emergency Control Center has been working as a war room, and all things currently seem to be at place. The only thing is that people have been advised not to venture out at all from their homes.
Okay, so people have been advised not to venture out at all, and that is a warning that everyone has to take very seriously. But, tell us a little bit about the kind of landfall that has been made. What are the wind speeds like? What is the rain that it's carrying? So that, we can understand what the situation is like.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely, Mark. And to give you a shot of the situation, I'm here in Gandhinagar. And when we talk about Gandhinagar and Ahmedabad, these places lie almost in the central of Gujarat. And when we know that the cyclone has hit the coast, Gujarat has the longest coast. It is about 1600 kilometers. And still there is a lot of impact. There is strong winds. There is a wet spell, heavy rains lashing, even Ahmedabad and Gandhinagar. So definitely we can, get an idea of the situation that the coastline, the districts and the areas in the coastline will have to suffer. The wind speed around the coastline and the places where it is going to be the most affected and where the landfall is going to the landfall has taken place is anywhere around 145 to 155 km per hour, and the gust speed can also reach 175 to 185 km per hour. So that is really intense. And even in places around Saurashtra, it is expected to be 100 km per hour. So that is going to be, very intense storm, not only, in the coastline where there is obviously a very extreme cyclonic storm, but also in the areas which are a bit interior to the coastline. Those areas are also going to be severely affected. Also, in the past 2 days, also there were several electricity poles that had got uprooted, and trees that had got uprooted. So definitely, tonight, what all disaster or what all destruction or what the nature's fury we are going to see is something that has that will be assessed in the morning and can be seen in the morning. But we are hoping for the best, and the administration is on alert. That's all. That's what we have been told here at the Operation Control Center, and people are on their toes, watching every movement. And the NDRF teams have been deployed, SDRF teams have been deployed, Home Guard, and rapid response team, ICU on wheels, COVID hospitals have 2 days of power backup. So all things has oxygen corridor, green corridors have been made. So all these things have been put in place. We have to see about assess the actual destruction and devastation in the morning tomorrow.
Thanks very much for the moment, Meghna, but we'll come back to you, Meghna, reporting there from the control room in Gandhinagar. We're also joined by 2 special guests. We are privileged to have with us Dr. S.N. Pradhan, who's the Director General of the NDRF, and we are joined by Dr. R.K. Chinamani, who is a senior scientist of the IMD, who's the head of the Cyclonic Warning Center at the India Meteorological Department. Both these guests are being, we have them with us. We are just tying up some loose ends, and we are going to have them with us in just a moment. But here they are, in fact. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us. Dr. Chinamani, let me start with you. We have talked to Meghna, but she, of course, is in Gandhinagar, so she didn't give us an idea about, the speed with which it has made landfall. Now it's going to go for what, about 4 hours now before it makes complete landfall, and what kind of impact is likely, in terms of speed of winds and rain?
Yeah, if you see the landfall, it started around 8 or 8:10 and it will continue say up to 11:10 p.m. And the wind speed actually at 8 p.m. it was around 110 kilometer gusting to 120.
Okay.
And 8:30 it has further increased also. And because the system while making landfall, as you know, the eye has to, the wall cloud region has entered. But that eye, while crossing, there will be a little weakening of the wind and rain.
Okay.
And then again, the backside of the eye wall will enter. So that way, it is a long process, 3 hours. And that is the area where also, the cyclone is taking a longer period to completely cross that due coast, that Gujarat coast, compared to other cyclones earlier also.
Right.
So that is the latest.
Sure.
Yeah, and rainfall will continue actually till morning.
So, Dr. Pradhan, keeping that in mind, then, I guess these are the important hours in which the NDRF is involved on the ground. What kind of planning has gone into it, and what is, the ground report as far as the NDRF is concerned with regard to the current situation and over the next 3 hours?
Well, I must tell you that we are all in the control room, and I'm just in my office room right beside the control room of the NDRF.
Yes.
We are getting minute-to-minute information and visuals also. We have just got visuals of the landfall and also the wind speeds. And as Dr. Janamani is saying, the wind speed is true to the prediction. We are touching in some places 140 and 150. And the system will last for almost 3.5 hours till 11 or 11:30 or maybe a little beyond that. Let us not forget that the cyclone is rather aptly named Gecko.
Yes.
Tauktae means gecko, which is a lizard. And the lizard has a very strong tail. So the cyclone is also expected to have a strong tail, because the tail is a whiplash tail. And that can also have very high wind speeds up to even 180 plus. So this is very serious amount of wind speed, and it can do a lot of damage. So accordingly, the preparations have been made. As far as damage to infrastructure and things like telephone lines and electric lines, as well as trees uprooted, that is probably has to be taken in the stride, because with this wind speed, there will be some damage, material damage to such things. But as far as damage to life is concerned, I think that is our priority number one.
Okay.
And the Honorable Prime Minister day before yesterday, the Honorable Home Minister yesterday, as well as the Honorable Cabinet Secretary of Government of India yesterday, was at pains to explain to the state governments, and the state governments were also on board very readily, that the focus should be on saving lives and zero casualty approach, as they say. And that is the bottom line we are working for, and we are all making efforts for. And I hope on the other side of the cyclone, we make a good act out of it. We are able to save optimal lives, and there is minimum loss to life and property at the end of the day.
Dr. Pradhan, you have 44 teams, working with cyclone management. You've deployed them, of course, in the areas which are, where the cyclone is going to hit the worst. But you talked now about the tail and the whiplash. So, I mean, have we planned for that as well? When is the tail going to have an impact later on, or how is it going to have an impact? Is it already having an impact?
Well, Dr. Janamani is better suited to answer that question technically, but I must say that with our experience, what happens is it is a mistake to feel that once the eye of the storm passes over the town or the village, and you think that the worst is over, that is when the whiplash happens. And then the whiplash can be very severe. So it is till the entire system is out of the area, we should not take anything for granted. And that is the preparation that NDRF has learned by experience. So we will be on ground throughout the night. We will be on ground throughout the day tomorrow. And we will be helping the restoration activities also. And as your correspondent was saying, we will be saving lives, as many as possible, people stranded here and there, roads blocked by trees and poles.
Right.
Everything will be, in action mode right from the get-go. And the get-go has started almost 2 days ago. So we are spread out across the area, and we should be able to make an optimally good job out of it. That is my faith and belief.
Dr. Janamani, is there something unique about this particular cyclone Tauktae, especially the tail and the whiplash? I mean, is it entirely different from the other kind of cyclones, or are we expecting something unique, something different, something new?
Yeah, I just will tell the the complete life cycle of this particular system. Actually, it is different, and I think it is rarest of the rare, because it started from Lakshadweep, as our Director General NDRF was also commenting. The preparation Lakshadweep, Kerala, covering again Goa, Karnataka, and today Maharashtra, that Mumbai and all these big city also, and then coming to the right at the focal point, that is the South Gujarat coast, that is near Diu and all these areas. So last 4 or 5 days, the impact and the weather has been very severe. So right 3 to 5 days in lead time we have also predicted. And why I told the rarest of this system, because this is the only system which has moved from something like Lakshadweep, south of Lakshadweep, parallel to the coast, just 140, 150 kilometer or 200 kilometer right from Kerala to, we know from Goa it was 140, 150 kilometer west, and then Mumbai also today it was 140, 150 kilometer west. And if you see, the prediction was accordingly coming correct, and that to handle such kind of system, at least in the history, we have never seen. And nowhere it has weakened. It has given and pouring, simply rain. If you see Kerala, 3 days it was extremely heavy rainfall. Then Goa you have seen yesterday and day before yesterday. Then today also Mumbai. So all these shows the rarest of the system. And we have one system in 1998, but that directly hit the Porbandar. It has not much affected the other area of the west coast. So that way the system is very, we can single out. And another thing I want to tell, the eye of the system as it is crossing, it is taking a long time, because there is a narrow area where it has been laying, and the northeast Arabian Sea, that Gulf of Cambay or something like that. And then that is the movement also, the well cloud and then complete eye taking certain time. So that way, and the system has not weakened much also, even the well cloud has entered into the land. So a lot of severity still has been there. So the system is under very critical observation for next 6 hours.
So given that critical observation, what is the impact it's having on the sea and on the storm surge and on tides and everything in the closer to the coast, on waves, etc.? Is that something that we need to also take into account? And I mean, I know that fishermen and all the other boats and everything have been moved, but the impact that could it have, some excessive force of tidal waves or something like that, or storm surge?
Yeah, actually we have prediction of 3 to 4 meter, and that whole area east of Diu. If you see, this is a very extended coastal line. So with the strong wind, I think there will be a lot of impact from the storm surge. Yeah.
So there will be a strong impact of storm surge as well. Dr. Pradhan, so there are different aspects, I suppose. I mean, this is a unique cyclone. Apart from that, it is on the west coast. I mean, we're largely having many of our cyclones on the east coast. So, I mean, has it been, different in a sense of trying to prepare for this cyclone, or is it, have we learned many lessons from the other cyclones that we've had on the east coast, and we are just replicating many of the ideas there here?
I think, the experience that India has gained in cyclone management, I think is very valuable. And I think we have learned it the right way. We have leveraged that experience. And today, I think India is one of the better countries among the world to handle cyclones and handling cyclones. So there is no doubt about that. There are techniques which have been out in the past, and it has for example, Cyclone Forni management was appreciated, Cyclone Nisarg management was appreciated across the world, and this continues to be so. And the entire ecosystem of disaster response across the country has got a strong fillip over the last few years.
Okay.
Whether it is from prediction to response to rehabilitation and restoration. But yes, your question about the uniqueness of this being on the western coast, even if it is on the western coast, and although it is unique also in another way, that is the season's first cyclone. It happens to be the season's first cyclone, and it has started on the western coast. It has not been the case earlier. There have not been cyclones in the summer, in May, in the western coast, and there have been no cyclones which started on the western coast, as a series of cyclones that happens every year. So this is unique in that respect. But also it is unique, as Dr. Jainamani was saying, that it is a very strong system. So right from Lakshadweep to all the coastal states along the western coast, Arabian Sea, it has manifested as strong winds and strong rains, which are still continuing. So it is a very strong system, and that is why it is a unique challenge. But another uniqueness to this is it is happening in the time of a second wave of COVID, where we have to handle it in a different way.
That's something that I wanted to ask you about, in the evacuation that people have, 2 lakh people have been evacuated. COVID protocols are something that one has to take into account when moving all these people. Was that, key, Dr. Pradhan, in the movement of people and in their rehabilitation for the time being?
To continue from what I was saying as developing a template, a tradition of good cyclone management. I think India has learned the hard way, but in the best way possible. And we are now seamlessly managing cyclones across government systems. The central government agencies and the state governments are working very seamlessly and in tandem, in lockstep almost, and we are able to deliver. So, for example, only yesterday, the Honorable Home Minister, held a meeting where the Chief Ministers of both Gujarat and Maharashtra were present. And both the Chief Ministers were very clear and in agreement with the central government and the Union Home Minister that they have to do something about the makeshift and the jumbo COVID facilities that have been made, because those facilities cannot withstand the wind speed that is being predicted. So accordingly, the patients were removed to safety and to safer places well in time, even if there has been damage to the infrastructure both in Mumbai and could happen in Gujarat. But that infrastructure can be re-erected maybe in 10 days' time. But then lives lost would have been very, very, serious and very, very, very painful. So that has not happened. So COVID management, along with cyclone management, has been made kind of a priority number 1. And both the aspects of this management has been given due priority in the planning of and strategizing. And I think the results will show as we go on the other side of the cyclone.
Finally, Dr. Jainamani, as the cyclone makes landfall, it obviously weakens, but you were saying that it has been maintaining its ferocity for all this time. So what's your prediction? How long will it take to weaken over the next few hours?
Actually, the landfall started around 8:30 p.m. So that front part of the well cloud region surrounding the eye crossed, and just eye has touched. So another half has been there, actually, the southern part of the eye and well cloud region. So we are telling it will complete by 11:30. But the point is that actually, what's the eye had actually? The rainfall, for the Rajasthan and further for Haryana, Delhi and Uttarakhand, we have covered also heavy rainfall also. Because as you know that Arabian Sea is the source of the moisture for this area. And incidentally, there is a western disturbance, and western disturbance moved from west to east. And this cyclone is coming from south actually, from North Arabian Sea, from Diu and all these areas. So there will be a lot of moisture and there will be a lot of activity still in there actually from this cyclone. Delhi will have a cloudy weather for 3-4 days, maybe heavy rainfall for maybe 19 something like that. And also Uttarakhand, we may see very heavy rainfall or something like that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jainamani and Dr. Pradhan, for being with us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So moving on to our next story. Monday brought encouraging news in the fight against COVID-19. The active cases graph in the country is sliding down consistently. The active cases in the last 24 hours have been less than 3 lakhs after nearly 4 weeks. And the nation has also launched the DRDO drug in treatment of the viral disease. It's called 2DG. And this medicine, it has been proved quite efficient, in fact, in the disease management, and it raises the hopes of the medical fraternity and the nation as a whole. Let's take a look at this report.
India's fight against COVID-19 pandemic continues. In an encouraging development, daily new COVID cases being registered in India is now less than 3 lakh after 26 days. 2,81,386 new cases registered in the last 24 hours. A declining trend in the weekly positivity rate is also observed, which stands at 18.17% on Monday. Also, 24-hour recoveries have outnumbered the daily new COVID cases for the 6th time in last 7 days and consistently in the last 4 days. 3,78,741 recoveries were registered in the last 24 hours. India's total active caseload has decreased to 35,16,997. It now comprises 14.09% of the country's total positive cases. A net decline of 1,01,461 cases is recorded in the active caseload in the last 24 hours.
Today we have 35,16,997 active cases in the country. And for the first time after almost 26 days, we have seen cases less than 3 lakhs.
During the 26th meeting of the group of ministers on the COVID-19 situation on Monday, Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan took stock of the COVID-19 situation in the country.
By now, we have from the Government of India been able to deliver 52.64 lakh vials of remdesivir to the states, 45,066 ventilators to the states, 176.91 lakh PPE kits to the states, and also 422.79 lakh N95 masks to the states.
Also, swift action is being taken by the government to enhance availability of remdesivir in India. The availability, production and supply of remdesivir is being monitored continuously, and the production capacity of remdesivir has been increased to nearly 119 lakh vials per month from 38 lakh vials per month. A clearly important moment in this unabated struggle came on Monday when the first batch of anti-COVID drug 2DG developed by the DRDO was released by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh along with Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan. The first batch of the adjunct COVID therapy anti-COVID drug 2-deoxy-D-glucose 2DG was released by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and handed over to Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan. During the clinical trials of 2-deoxy-D-glucose, significantly higher proportion of patients improved symptomatically and became free from supplemental oxygen dependence by day 3 in comparison to standard of care. Speaking on the occasion, Defence Minister described the drug as a perfect example of the country's scientific prowess and a moment in the efforts towards self-reliance.
ड्रग जिसका यह इजाद हुआ है, यह आशा और उम्मीद की एक नई किरण लेकर आया है। यानी हमारे देश के सामने एक बड़ा से बड़ा चैलेंज आए तो हमारे वैज्ञानिकों के अंदर वह क्षमता है, वह ताकत है कि उसका मुकाबला वह कर सकते हैं।
ये शायद हमारी पहली इंडिजिनस रिसर्च के आउटकम के तहत दवा है जो सीधे सीधे कोविड के वायरस के प्रकोप को पूरे वैज्ञानिक दृष्टिकोण से कम करने का पूरा पोटेंशियल रखती है।
Indian Railways is continuing its journey of bringing relief by delivering liquid medical oxygen to various states across the country. In spite of the upcoming cyclone, Railways ran 2 oxygen expresses early Monday morning from Gujarat to beat high winds and deliver 150 metric tons of oxygen to the nation. So far, Indian Railways has delivered more than 10,000 metric tons of LMO to various states across the country. Oxygen expresses have been delivering nearly 800 metric tons of LMO to the nation each day for the last few days. Meanwhile, the Indian Air Force has started a 100-bed COVID healthcare center in Bengaluru. 50 beds have oxygen support facility. The Defence Minister has lauded the untiring efforts of the armed forces in combating the COVID challenge.
मिलिट्री हॉस्पिटल्स में भी आपको जानकर खुशी हुई होगी, समाचार पत्रों में आपने पढ़ा होगा कि यह भी व्यवस्था कर दी गई है कि सिविलियंस का भी वहां पर इलाज हो सकता है। और मुझे जानकारी है ऐसे कई मिलिट्री हॉस्पिटल्स जहां पर पहले सिविलियंस का इलाज नहीं होता था और मिलिट्री हॉस्पिटल्स में बहुत ही अच्छी तरह उन सिविलियंस का भी इलाज हो रहा है।
The cumulative number of COVID-19 vaccine doses administered in the country has reached nearly 18.30 crore. The centre has so far provided more than 20 crore vaccine doses to states and union territories. Of this, the total consumption is 18 crore 71 lakh 13,705 doses. More than 2 crore COVID vaccine doses are still available with the states, union territories to be administered. Furthermore, nearly 3 lakh vaccine doses are in the pipeline and will be received by the states, union territories within the next 3 days. Meanwhile, a report submitted by the National AEFI Adverse Event Following Immunization Committee to the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has said that bleeding and clotting cases following COVID vaccination in India are minuscule and in line with the expected number of diagnoses of these conditions in the country. The AEFI committee concluded that the reporting rate of these events in India is around 0.61 per million doses, which is much lower than other developed nations. Meanwhile, all resources have been deployed for quick and effective transportation of equipment and critical drugs to the required destinations. The heavy-lift transport fleet of Indian Air Force is now airlifting empty cryogenic oxygen tankers to international destination for filling. An IL-76 aircraft of the Indian Air Force has airlifted 3 empty cryogenic containers from Jamnagar to Al Maktoum, Dubai. Bureau Report, DD India.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacted with a group of doctors from across the country via video conference to discuss the COVID-related situation. The Prime Minister thanked the entire medical fraternity and the paramedical staff for their exemplary fight that they displayed against the extraordinary circumstances of the second wave of COVID, adding that the entire country is indebted to them. The Prime Minister underlined the strategy of starting vaccination program with the frontline warriors, which paid rich dividends in the second wave. About 90% of the health professionals in the country have already taken their first dose. Vaccines have ensured safety of most of the doctors. During the interaction, the doctors thanked the Prime Minister for his guidance and leadership during the recent surge of cases. The doctors thanked the Prime Minister for prioritizing the healthcare workers for vaccination. They informed the Prime Minister about their preparedness since the first wave of COVID-19 and the challenges that they faced in the second wave. The doctors shared their experiences, best practices and innovative efforts. They informed that in the fight against COVID, every effort is being made to take proper care of non-COVID patients as well. And they shared their experiences of increasing awareness among the public, including about sensitizing patients about improper use of medicine. So they emphasized on the proper use of medicines. Now, the Prime Minister also will be interacting with field officials from the states as well as the districts. He'll be talking to them about their experiences in handling the pandemic. This will happen on the 18th of May. And many of these districts have had a huge surge in cases and also widespread infection. Officials from Karnataka, Bihar, Assam, Chandigarh, Tamil Nadu, Uttarakhand, Madhya Pradesh, Goa, Himachal Pradesh, Delhi, they'll be taking part in this meeting. The battle against COVID-19 across states and districts is being led at the cutting edge by field officials, field level officers, and a better appreciation of such initiatives will help towards developing effective response plan, targeted strategy of implementation, and also support necessary policy interventions. Many effective measures have been taken, from ensuring strict containment measures that are undertaken to control the spread, as well as to prepare the healthcare facilities for handling the raging second wave, to ensuring availability of healthcare workforce and also seamless supply chain of logistics. These districts, in their relentless efforts to manage the situation, have success stories that could be replicated across the country. These officials will share their best practices. In addition, there'll be to suggestions and recommendations for continuing the ongoing COVID fight, this battle, which is especially in the semi-urban and rural areas now. And meanwhile, states continue the fight against the global pandemic with their all resources at their disposal. So the positivity rate has come down in Uttar Pradesh and Delhi, and many states have announced an extension of restrictions to curb the chain of transmission.
The war against COVID continues. Efforts are being made to break the chain of transmission with strict lockdown or partial lockdown and curfew in states all across the country. In Uttar Pradesh, there has been a decrease in the number of new COVID infections. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath held a meeting with the state's Team 9 set up to tackle the coronavirus through video conference in the morning. He gave officials necessary instructions. There has been a steady decline in the positivity rate in the state, with cumulative active cases also declining.
बट कह रहे थे 1 लाख प्रतिदिन के मामले वो घट के वो केवल आज जो है 9,391 मामले आए थे। इस प्रकार ये जो पूरी रणनीति कोरोना की है उसमें माननीय मुख्यमंत्री जी के निर्देशन और मार्गदर्शन में तेजी से कार्रवाई हो रही है।
Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath has been continuously monitoring the situation in the state. The Chief Minister was on a tour of Western UP on Monday. He inspected the COVID-19 Command Center at Saharanpur District Office and held a meeting with representatives and officials from the district. He also visited Rampur in Muzaffarnagar and spoke to the monitoring committee, interacting with village leaders and families of those suffering from COVID. Yogi Adityanath visited the COVID Command and Control Center in Muzaffarnagar. The Chief Minister also reviewed the coronavirus situation with officials. He said that the recovery rate in Uttar Pradesh is currently 90%. The Uttar Pradesh government is focusing on COVID management in rural areas. Doctors associated with BHU in Varanasi are providing their services for health checkup in rural areas.
शहर में ऑक्सीमीटर लोग जानते हैं लेकिन गांव में नहीं जानते, उनको लग रहा है कि इससे बीमारी हो जाएगी। तो हम लोग को इस पर भी ध्यान देना होगा, जागरूकता फैलानी होगी और इस पर कार्य करना होगा।
The COVID situation in Madhya Pradesh is also being brought under complete control. The state government says that the infection rate has reduced to 9.10% in the state. The recovery rate is now 87.5%.
राज्य शासन ने फैसला किया है 2 योजनाएं बनाने का। एक मुख्यमंत्री कोविड-19 अनुकंपा नियुक्ति योजना, इन सबको के परिवारों को, परिवार में आश्रितों को जो परिवार तय करे अनुकंपा नियुक्ति उसी पद पर दी जाएगी।
The situation is improving due to restrictions in place in Rajasthan. About 100 patients with black fungus have been admitted in a private hospital.
हमारे एक प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल में 100 के करीब मरीज वहाँ भर्ती हैं। एसएमएस में भी हमने एक यूनिट इस बीमारी के ट्रीटमेंट के लिए खोली है।
The lockdown in Delhi has been extended till 5 a.m. on 24th May. In most areas, people are following all the protocols. In the last 24 hours, Delhi saw 4,524 new cases with a positivity rate a little more than 8%.
So, दिल्ली में कोरोना के केसेस तो कम हो रहे हैं, जैसे जैसे दूसरा वेव अब नीचे आ रहा है, दिल्ली में कोरोना के केसेस भी कम हो रहे हैं, डेथ्स भी कम हो रही हैं, साथ साथ हॉस्पिटल्स के ऊपर भी प्रेशर कम हुआ है। दूसरी तरफ दिल्ली सरकार बहुत तेज़ी से और बहुत सफलता से वैक्सीनेशन का प्रोग्राम चला रही है। जितनी भी वैक्सीन उपलब्ध हो पा रही है, सारी की सारी वैक्सीन बहुत तेज़ी से हमारी कोशिश है कि लोगों को लगा दी जाए ताकि हर व्यक्ति को सुरक्षित किया जा सके।
In Jammu and Kashmir too, steps are being taken to prevent a rise in COVID infections. The administration is providing COVID management kits at homes free of cost to COVID patients who are in home isolation.
जो भी कोविड पॉजिटिव पेशेंट्स हैं उनको हम घर घर जाकर उनको हम मेडिकल किट्स दे रहे हैं। जैसा कि आपने अभी देखा, उस किट्स में ऑक्सीमीटर हैं, हेल्थ सप्लीमेंट्स हैं, एंटीबायोटिक्स हैं और जो भी एक प्रिस्क्रिप्शन रहती है प्रेस्क्राइब डॉक्टर्स की प्रिस्क्रिप्शन, वो हम उनको डोर स्टेप पे दे रहे हैं।
Meanwhile, the COVID curfew imposed in Andhra Pradesh has been extended till the end of this month. Triple lockdown is in force in 4 Kerala districts which have a high positivity rate: Thiruvananthapuram, Ernakulam, Trichur and Mallapuram. Lockdown is also in place in Tamil Nadu. Actor Rajnikant handed over a cheque of 50 lakh rupees to Chief Minister M.K. Stalin for the COVID relief fund. Karnataka too is under a lockdown to prevent the rising numbers of COVID.
Bangalore is the only city in the state which we are seeing some downward trend, which we are happy, and because there is a lockdown here, so there are many reasons why it has gone down.
Vaccinations are being administered in right earnest across the country. The administration has launched a new scheme for vaccination in Gautam Budh Nagar in Uttar Pradesh. After due registration, people with disabilities, the elderly and those who are not able to walk are being vaccinated in their cars.
सब लोग अपनी गाड़ी में बैठ के आएंगे और गाड़ी में बैठे बैठे ही अपना रजिस्ट्रेशन कराएंगे। रजिस्ट्रेशन कराने के बाद यहाँ पे वैक्सीनेशन कराएंगे। आजकल इशू ये रहता है जब लोग हॉस्पिटल जाते हैं वैक्सीनेशन कराने के लिए, भीड़ भड़के से उनको लगता है कि हो सकता है हमें इन्फेक्शन हो जाए। यहाँ पे लोगों को क्या है कि उनको सहूलियत है, वो अपनी गाड़ी के अंदर बैठे बैठे वैक्सीनेशन कराते हैं।
Several organizations across states have been helping people affected by COVID. United Six created a 50-bed COVID care center with oxygen facility at the sports complex in Chandigarh. People across the board are coming forward in keeping with COVID protocols to aid the government's efforts in mitigating the impact of the second wave of the virus. Bureau Report, DD India.
In West Bengal, 4 leaders have been arrested in the Narda case, which have and they have been granted interim bail by the CBI court. In fact, the officers of the CBI had taken Minister Subrata Mukherjee and Firhad Hakim, MLA Madan Mitra and the former mayor of Kolkata Sovan Chatterjee into custody at the headquarters of the CBI in Kolkata on Monday morning and arrested them. But the charge sheet was filed against them and placed before the CBI court during a virtual meeting, and the judge rejected the agency's pleas and granted the accused bail. Finally, as the conflict in the Middle East, in West Asia, in fact, enters the second week with no signs of any respite, both the sides have suffered casualties. But once again, the worst sufferers are children on both sides of the divide. The childhood crushed by the deafening sounds of explosions and the smile smothered by the blood and pain all over. As we say goodbye, here's a reminder that in war situations like these, they threaten anything. It's the innocence and the cheerfulness of children that get us through. We sign off with a prayer on our lips and a hope in our hearts that the hostilities will end soon. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.
जैसे रंगों भरी पिचकारी, जैसे तितलियां फूलों की क्यारी, जैसे बिना मतलब का प्यारा रिश्ता हो कोई, ये तो आशा